Hello, Waswere here, back with another video, and today is going to be a bit of a different video. We're going to rank the 10 hardest items to get for Golden Reaper. Golden Reaper is a title that is obtained by completing all collection logs from all bosses in the game. It's a very hard title to get. In fact, I've been working on this title for over a year now and still don't have it done. Across the 33 collection logs, there are a total of 365 unique items, and within that list there are a couple of really irrelevant items. For example, Nexus Followers drops whenever you get a unique item from the boss, therefore it's impossible to get through the next collection log without getting that book first. So once we knock off all those irrelevant items, we get to a much lower total to rank. But let's go over my ranking criteria. This will be mostly subjective, so understand what is guiding my rankings will be very important. First off, we have the difficulty of the boss. The harder the boss is, the harder the item will be to get. Pretty simple. Next up is the difficulty of finding groups. When it comes to group PvM, some bosses are really hard to find teams and or get in the door to get your first kills, while others are really easy to join up with randoms and get kills. With that in mind, group PvM as a whole will be more difficult than solo, as when it's solo PvM you can just grind it out on your own time, do 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. While when you're group PvMing, you're relying on others, you normally do it in 1 hour blocks and there's a lot of lost time throughout that. I also want to take into consideration how rare or time consuming the drop is to get. This one is pretty obvious, but the rarer an item is, the harder it is to get. Bonus points are given for the rarest item in a collection log. For example, you won't see the Rex Matriarchs on this list, but because the unique drops are so common and it's a pet limiting log, the pet drops get a little bit more importance to them. Finally, we need to take into consideration how much fun something is. This is a game at the end of the day, so the more fun something is, the more likely you're going to want to grind it out. Spending 200 hours at Barrows is boring, but 200 hours at Solak might be a little bit more fun. One more thing I should mention is that if things share a drop rate from a boss, then they share a spot on this list, so as to not take up 5 spots with one item. But without further ado, let's get into the list. At number 10, we have Bombi. This is one of the pets I still have left for Insane Final Boss. Bombi is the pet from Hard Mode Virago. In order to obtain this pet, you need to be Bombi eligible, which means you need to have mauled all 6 weeks of Hard Mode Virago, which unlocks the full Omens outfit. At that point, any subsequent drop piles received have a 1 in 50 drop rate for the pet. Now you're probably thinking, this pet has a drop rate of 1 in 50. What the hell is it doing on this list? And it's there for a couple reasons. Hard mode teams are notoriously hard to get, and if you do get a team, it's hard to get into one of the roles where you're able to pick up the drop piles. Because hard mode isn't that rewarding and requires more people than normal to go. On a GP basis, it's never worth it to do hard mode. You're only at hard mode for KC or the pet. This leaves the only people who want to go hard mode are people who still need Bombi themselves and therefore want to get one of the roles that give good loot piles, or they have Bombi and still need 100 KC for IFB. Really, the best way to get this pet is to go with a group of 5 or 6 people and commit to getting everyone in the team Bombi and swapping around the roles as people get Bombi. While the fight itself isn't too difficult anymore, what makes this item hard to get is just getting that team together and getting kills. Next up, we have Blightbounds. These are the T92 dual-wield range weapons, and they are dropped by Solak. Solak can be killed with groups of 2 to 7 people, and regardless of the team size, your personal drop rate is 1 in 400 for each of the bows. Seeing as there are 2 of them, the average kills to get both bows is 600 KC. Now, this is not the rarest item on Solak's collection log, but more on that later. The crossbows get a spot on this list with just how difficult it is to get on teams. Being perfectly frank, the only time I'm willing to teach Solak is during free death week. It's just way too easy to kill the rest of the team with a simple mistake, and with how death costs currently are, my Solak preset gets up to 18.9 mil. In my opinion, Solak is the least accessible boss in the entire game, and that's partly what makes it so profitable if you can kill it. At the same time, I absolutely love Solak. I don't mind going dry here, and the drops are insane, so it's hard to know exactly where this item should lie. For me, it's 9th, but if you're someone who doesn't enjoy this boss, I can see this being much higher on your list. Base Pet is one of those items that people either seem to get super early or they seem to go 2,000 kills dry for. Base Pet is dropped by Araxi, and its drop rate is based on how much enrage was gained during the fight, with no enrage being 1 in 1,000 and 1 in 500 being the drop rate if you gained 500% enrage in the fight. It was a long time ago, but I found that the amount of enrage gained in the fight was about 100% for me, meaning a 1 in 900 drop rate. You can sacrifice your loot and get a second roll at the pet, so those low value drops like stone spirits can be yeeted away. It's a pretty long drop at 1 in 900, and the fact that there is no threshold makes it even worse to obtain as a pet. Though the profit you're making at a rack sword does lessen the wound a little bit, it's still one of the hardest items to get. At lucky number 7, we have the Eldritch Crossbow Pieces. Unlike other rare drops, they are dropped in order, meaning you can't get a duplicate on the collection log until you've completed one bow. However, at the same time, it's the elite dungeon where you are likely to have the most amount of solos. Each crossbow piece is 1 in 55, meaning getting 3 of them on average should take 165 solo KC. The real positive with this dungeon is the large amount of GP you're going to make. By completing this log, you also complete an Eldritch Crossbow, which is currently setting at around 2.9 bill GP. Though the fear of going dry here on your last piece looms large, and is why it makes a appearance on this list. It's time for our first boss revisit, and we're going back to Solak. All the same things I said apply, except for this time the drop rate on the items are 1 in 500 for Meretheil staff and the purple mushroom. These are virtually worthless, currently about 5 mil in the GE, as they are a pet unlock and a staff override unlock. It's annoying to get a second one, but your first one you're pretty happy to knock out the collection log. You can anticipate spending 750 KC here to get the 2 cosmetic items, which is slightly higher than the 600 KC for the crossbows. You might have noticed that the Grimoire did not make the list so far, and that will continue to be the case alongside the pet. For the Grimoire, its drop rate is only 1 in 200, and with 2 1 in 400 drops and 2 1 in 500 drops, it's unlikely to be a factor in completing the log, though it is still very possible. At number 5, we have the Linza items. I don't know how many of you are grave robbers out there, but goddamn, it's amazing once you get that done. The sense of relief is too real. Linza is the 8th Barrow's brother, though she's actually female, and she has way more life points than the rest of them at 150,000. Killing Linza slows down your regular Barrow's run by almost 50%, and once you're done with Linza, you can be free of killing her ever again. There are a total of 5 pieces to the Linza set, with each having a 1 in 960 drop rate, and it takes on average 2192 KC to get Linza's item, so that's 2,000 plus Barrow's runs. I did 1990 KC, it was not fun, it was a long time, and I'm happy to be done with that place. She deserves her spot in the top 5, and let's move on. Coming in at 4th place is the AoD weapons. These are rare, and it's a pretty common occurrence to have someone complete the Angel of Death log on either a Wand of the Praesul or the Imperium core. The drop rate varies on team size, with it falling off a cliff once you get above 7 people. To get a Wand or core in a team size of 8 or higher, it's 1 in 5,000, making them incredibly rare, and seeing as people mostly learn in 8 to 10 man teams as they get the mechanics down, they have KC where they are unable to reasonably expect the Wand or core. Once they get into 7-man teams, on a personal basis, you can expect to see a weapon about every 1,000 kills instead of every 5,000 kills. And with there being 2 weapons, you can expect it would take 3 on average to complete the weapons, giving a total KC of 3,000 to get them both done. That alone is a 200 plus hour grind and the longest time commitment we've had on the list so far. But hey, at least you're making money. We're into the top 3, and this is where it gets real. I estimate that about 50% of the total time spent going for Golden Reaper will be on these 3 items. The astute among you might already be able to guess what these 3 items are in order. Lil Tuzzy is such an annoying drop to get. It's a 1 in 512 drop, but that 1 in 512 is rolled only after you miss a codex and an acto piece, so that makes the actual drop rate 1 in 550 instead. On top of that, raids are locked out for loot every 2 days, so while you can kill Tuzzy for the pet chance off your loot, you're not going to get anything to pay for your supplies or your time. The saving grace is that when you do have loot, you are able to re-roll Beastmaster's loot, giving you a second roll at Lil Tuzzy for each kill. You can also take into consideration the fact that the rest of the items for Golden Reaper take so long to get, as it's been about a year since I started. As long as you're diligent about going raiding every other day, you're likely to at least hit drop rate on Lil Tuzzy long before you get the other 374 items. I should also mention there are Lil Tuzzy teams that go for an hour at a time and pick up a bunch of KC and pet rolls in an hour. But you're losing all your supply costs for that hour. I personally haven't done it yet, as I'm waiting for the other drops from raids before committing to off-loot Beastmaster. At number 2, we have the hardest pet and the limiting factor for 90% of people on Insane Final Boss. Vitalis. On an hours basis, Vitalis is the longest pet, and it's not even close. Back in the day when 4-man Virago or higher was the meta, Vitalis was something that dropped every couple weeks, and the list of people that had it was small, and it was a very exclusive club. The way that drops work at Virago is that the base tank, bomb tank, and the top DPS each get a 1/3 roll of picking up the drops for that phase. When you get a drop pile, you get a 1 in 5,000 chance of getting the Ancient Summoning Stone, which unlocks the Vitalis pet. There are a total of 5 drops per kill, which means that there are 5 rolls at the pet per kill, so you can see one every 1,000 kills. Back in the day, the bomb tank would get about 2 drops per kill, the base tank would get about 1.5 drops per kill, and the remaining DPS would split that final 1.5. This made it very important to be a bomb tank or a base tank if you wanted the pet, and even then you could go thousands upon thousands of kills without getting it. In modern RS, it's much more common. There's now a threshold where you get increased drop rate as your KC grows, with every 1,000 kills adding 1 to the numerator. It's also pretty reasonable to be able to duo, and if you do duo, you can do that with someone who already has Vitalis. If that's the case, it's a base of 1 in 1,000 per kill, increasing with each threshold. Me, myself, I'm at 1 threshold, so it becomes 2 in 1,000 per kill, which is the same as 1 in 500. Seeing as the power creep has allowed us to reasonably get 5 kills an hour, that's a 1 in 100 chance every hour at Virago for Vitalis, which isn't half bad, and the reason why it's not number 1 on this list. It also has a threshold, which means it's an eventuality. It's going to be very hard to go past 3,000 KC without the pet, as that would be hitting drop rate 4 more times. And as your threshold grows, you'll hit drop rate faster and faster. And finally, we have number 1. You probably guessed it before the video even started, but it's the AOD chest. This is, I want to say, at least 1/3 of Golden Reaper. You luckily only need to get 1 chest for a Golden Reaper. If you had to get all 4, this title would basically be impossible to get, but still it takes a long time to get a single chest. 5,000 kills at AOD is a lifetime to me. I have a semi-perm team and we seem to average about an hour a day. It's been 5 months and I'm only halfway to even getting to the drop rate of the chest, looking basically at a year to get to drop rate. The lack of thresholds on the drop makes it very possible to go 3 times dry, and that would be 15,000 AOD kills. That's almost 1,000 hours of AOD, or if you're pulling that 1 hour a day that I am, that's almost 3 years of doing AOD every day. I am very afraid of going dry on this item, and it's the biggest thing holding me back from Golden Reaper at this point. I know there will be a lot of discussions on my ranking, but I think that the one we can all agree on is the AOD chest at number 1. I hope you enjoyed the video. How many of the top 10 items do you have? I've only done 3 of the 10, so while I may seem close on a numbers perspective, I'm far off on a time perspective. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below. It really helps me out, and if you're liking the content I'm creating, consider subscribing. But past that, have a good day, and I'll catch you in the next one.